Hi, this is Nicholas Hartlip, and this is my YouTube channel, the Mono Minority Stereotype Project, where we talk about all things Asian American and academic. And I have the pleasure of having this video dialogue with Dr. Cleveland Hayes. I'll let him share a little brief bio, his titles and responsibilities, where he works. But it's a pleasure to be able to talk with him about Black Lives Matter, about Asians, Asian Americans, about whiteness, about many things, many intersecting things. So Cleveland, do you want to just, for viewers, just introduce yourself, tell us about what you do and where you're at?
So, yes, I'm Dr. Cleveland Hayes. I'm faculty in the Indiana University School of Education in Indianapolis, where I'm a professor of urban teacher education, mostly educational foundations. I have been doing science ed and teaching qualitative research as well. And I'm also the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Recruitment, Diversity, Enrollment Management, Scheduling, and all that, sort of kind of all things academic.
But Cleveland, too, you obviously keep an active research agenda. So, you know, I thought of you because of we've written together, but about whiteness and some of the conversations we've had now with what's going on with the George Floyd, among other killings, murders. And, you know, so I wanted to get your take on your work or thoughts going through your mind. And then also, you know, my channel is Asian Americans, all things Asian American and academic. So it's not necessarily we're talking about Asians per se. We can talk about Black folks. We can talk about other work. But you know, given our conversation, we're going to chat a little bit about problematic things, good things. So I'll just hand over the mic and let you talk about what you've been kind of grappling with.
So over the last little while, there's been several things that I have sort of kind of been grappling with as it relates to this conversation, as you sort of want to tie back to all things Asian. And I can remember we were having a conversation at ARA that there was an Asian person running for ARA president, and I can distinctly remember the conversation. I said, I think there's some concerns around that, around sort of kind of the discourse around, you know, the representation of Asians and the way certain people feel about certain things, especially people of color around that. And you think about the history of the relationships between Black and Latino folk and Asian folk, which, you know, at the end of the day, as someone who lived in Southern California, I know it's all socially constructed. It's all sort of kind of constructed. It's all sort of kind of constructed around conversation around let's make whites honorary whites, and that's nothing new. But what is interesting was still having those conversations. But at the same time, you know, as it relates to two of the probably most high-profile killings in the United States, the Philando Castillo's murder and George Floyd's murder, 2 Asian people were involved in that. Sometimes I have to ask, we all, you know, I've had a sensitive conversation around, and I tell people all the time, it's like, this is really sort of kind of grounded in whiteness, and really sort of kind of people still trying to sort of kind of grasp onto that property of whiteness, the benefit of being white, and hoping that if I just sort of kind of act white and behave white and do all these sort of kind of things white, that I'll sort of kind of get sort of kind of those rewards that will come from sort of kind of being sort of kind of those honorary whites. And one of my students that I taught when she was in 8th grade, she's in her mid-30s now, we're Facebook friends, and it was really sort of kind of disheartening as I'm reading her post around, and she's Vietnamese, and I'm reading her posts as we sort of kind of having conversation around she's really, really sort of kind of buying into this narrative around good cops and using sort of kind of these problematic terms. And I didn't, because I didn't feel like it was sort of kind of necessary. I'm like, you do realize that you yourself are a minoritized person, but I didn't. But another of her friends that was in her same class, who's also Vietnamese, was talking about really, really sort of kind of broke it down and really, really sort of kind of understanding. My point to that story is, I think the more people sort of kind of begin to sort of kind of reading and understanding and sort of kind of beginning dismantling white supremacy, I think the better we're all off as a whole. And I'm hoping as Asians, Americans, Asian scholars are beginning to recognize that minorities stereotype as anti-Black, people will start pushing back on.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've been thinking a lot about in terms of just anti-Blackness and the prevalence of it. And as a non-Black person, you know, what I should be doing. So when I think of these hashtags that I see, Black in the Ivory and Asians for Black Lives, certainly I'm a Black Lives Matter supporter and proponent. But I guess, what do you see any problematic behaviors on the part of Asian Americans in the academy, in terms of, you know, that they're all caught up and they haven't unhooked from whiteness? What?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So in one of the latest things that I've done in terms of because as you shared, even though I'm tenure full and have an administrative role, I'm still in the publication grind. Because I still think that's important, that I'm still in the publication grind. And in one of the book chapters that I did around the racial ballot fatigue, two of the people that I'm talking about in that would sort of kind of fit that category. So I'm trying to be careful about how I sort of kind of describe, just because I don't know who's going to see this, and I don't want them to go in and say that I'm, that the narrative, there's already a narrative that there's an anti-Asian sentiment on the hallway. But at the end of the day, if I get called into the principal's office for anything that I've said or written around sort of kind of being anti-Asian, I will just sort of kind of just break it down around, no, your behavior, this is not an anti-Asian behavior. I'm not being anti-Asian towards you. This is really sort of kind of my reaction to you being anti-Black. And really sort of kind of understanding what that means, and still sort of kind of, it's still that necessity. I still see, and not with just Asian scholars, I mean, there's some Black ones too and some Latinx ones as well, who really, 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 really buy into that academy discourse around, stepping on people, having disregard for, sort of kind of humanity, feeling like that's sort of kind of the next thing you need to do to be able to get tenure and get these big grants and all that kind of stuff, which is really, really sort of kind of disappointing, especially in it. I think I have no empirical evidence to support this, that one of the reasons why, and there will be people, I'm sure there will be people who will disagree with what I'm about to say, and that's fine. That one of the reasons why I think in schools of education, we have not moved education in this country in ways that we need to, because I think it's about fame and fortune and not about really, really sort of kind of doing the work in K-12 spaces or P-20 spaces or whatever the case may be, that's really, really necessary. And by no stretch of means that I'm not perfect, because I'm not. But I'm oftentimes wondering, like, why are we still having these same conversations around the inequities that go on in school spaces And I sort of like I said, that's my opinion, and that's my hypothesis around that. I don't have no empirical evidence to support that.
Well, when I had a talk with Caltech at the end, it wasn't recorded, but we had a conversation, a Q&A, and one of the questions was, when will Asian Americans, Asian/Asian Americans, address some of their own anti-Blackness within intergroup, within that broad umbrella, and certainly talked about internationally Asian countries where anti-Blackness rears its ugly head. But then here stateside, and it just made me think, having friends, reading, self-reflecting, there's always areas of improvement. And I started to think in my own life where, yes, I've gotten some privilege because I'm not Black, but certainly I'm reminded that I'm not white. And so that politics, and also being aware, not, staying in my lane, trying not to go into spaces that I haven't been invited in. And you see this all over, and it's not just Asian and Black, it's white and Black. And so do you have any recommendations? So right now we're at about 75 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and we're trying to grow that. But if people are watching this video who are Asian American, Cleveland, would you have any advice to them, graduate students, young academics who are Asian American and who want to do better in terms of understanding anti-Blackness and white supremacy?
Before I answer that question, just something that kind of just popped in my head. So at the same time that you had Black social justice advocates, organizers, people sort of kind of focusing around equity, Black folk in the US, as COVID was coming out and everybody, the whole anti-race, the whole anti-Asian sentiment around that as COVID was coming out, at the exact same time in China, you had this humongous amount of anti-Blackness and Black people being expelled from the country, and really sort of kind of this anti-Blackness. At the same time, you had Black folk advocating, speaking up, standing in the way, doing whatever they can to do in terms of battling white supremacy or anti-Asian towards Asians. And sometimes I just think about, wow, it would be so nice if we get some of that back. And we do, and I think as a group of people, and I don't mean to centralize, but I think as a group, if you want to say grouping, you just think about, after Dylan Roof went into that church in South Carolina and shot up the place, and people were forgiving, and I forgive you, and blah blah blah. And then you think about that cop that guy that got shot in his apartment in Dallas, and the cop got arrested and went to jail, and the judge was hugging her, and the brother talking about I forgive you. So I think as a collective, there's a sense of forgiveness that Black people have, and I don't necessarily know where that comes from. And I'm just as guilty of it myself. And I guess to answer your question would be, it's like, wow, it would be so kind of nice to really sort of kind of get some of that same support back that sometimes I think we often don't get, because I think people are too afraid of the perceived benefit they get from whiteness. I just think about poor white people, for example, and Charles Mills. I'm rereading Racial Contract. When you look at polling in this country, you still have this overwhelming support. You have this overwhelming support of white men who are supporting current political policies and that kind of thing.
Sure.
And I oftentimes wonder, and I know when people ask me why, I say, well, I know why. I say, because that whiteness is such a grip that is so difficult to sometimes to break away from. And if I just do this, maybe I will be less of this. And so let me mistreat, talking about Asians or even Latinx folk or even other Black people for that matter. If I just do this, maybe I'll get a little bit of benefit from whiteness. Maybe I use my cookie analogy, where some people are really, really sort of kind of okay with crumbs. And like, why do we have to be selling for crumbs of whiteness? What I mean, when you're not going to get the whole cookie from, if you're not white, you're not going to get the whole cookie of whiteness, or even if you're poor and white, you're not going to get the whole cookie of whiteness and white supremacy that benefits from that. So while sometimes I still sort of kind of wondering why we sort of kind of just selling for crumbs. I mean, I know why, because we need, in order for capitalism the way it's currently configured, we need to keep people at odds with each other. You know, so no one's really, really sort of kind of critical of, you know, I'm upset because I can't get a haircut, but at the same time, we watched this man die on a city street with this man's knee on his neck for 9 minutes. We're not upset about that. We're upset because I can't get a haircut and that kind of thing. And I'm hoping that sort of kind of, that I would hope that we'll see some sort of kind of paradigm shift in that. And I will have to say, I am not optimistic that it's going to, because once we get on the other side of COVID, and we will, that's just how we, now we got to the point now, people who have seroconverted HIV positive, not a death sentence, they have enough medication that they are undetectable. So my point is, we'll get there. It may take a little bit of time, but we will get there, or we can take a shot, and COVID-19 won't even affect massive amounts of people. People are upset, going back to this sort of kind of this lack of humanity, and that I think a lot of people don't see in somebody who looks like me. It's also, again, okay, we've had over 100,000 people die of COVID-19, but you're worried about getting your haircut or going to the bowling alley. That makes no sense to me, and it's sort of kind of this lack of humanity that we have lost, I think. And I still think some people still sort of kind of hold on to that, hence the apology and I forgive you and that kind of thing. And I would hope that groups will sort of kind of let go some of the kind of that whiteness sometime and really, really look at the humanity in other people.
This is my daughter's trying to tear down my door. I hear, Daddy, Daddy. But we do these. Olivia, I'm on the phone call, baby. I'll look at it when I'm done. I'll look at it when I'm done. I'm talking right now. This is great. One thing is our work and our lives mesh. So, so for our viewers, yes, I have 3 daughters.
And that's a whole different conversation that we haven't even had around when they close schools.
Yeah.
I don't have any children, so me getting on lockdown was really, really large. In fact, I didn't have to worry about keeping up with my academic responsibilities and my job responsibilities and homeschool my child. But you think about the number of people who that's had a huge impact on a whole host of things that, again, I don't think enough people are really, really sort of kind of having a conversation around that either. I know it had nothing to do with the minority stereotype.
No, for sure.
But it's a real, and I recognize that because I sit on enough Zoom meetings where in this situation, I was on one earlier, working with a husband-wife team. Kids on Zoom with mom 1 minute, go downstairs and I'll never forget the first time that he recognized he saw himself in 2 different spaces. He's in the room with his mother, but see his face on the computer with his father. He's 4 years old. So that obviously that's exciting, and people and I don't think we're not having, while people are so, you know, I think that's a real struggle that people need to, that we need to sort of kind of have some conversation with. At some time, it has nothing to do with this, but I think it's a
No, no. I
conversation.
mean, it makes me wonder, this would be a nice segue. I wanted to do a YouTube channel to bring people together, to generate ideas, to share. I started this thing. I'm calling it Shout Out Saturdays, and this video, when I publish it, we could do a Shout Out Saturday because you have a book coming out, Cleveland. But thinking about this, if you're viewing this video, please subscribe to the channel, like and comment on the video, and leave a comment of who we could interview next. A whiteness scholar, anything. This is about getting other people their ideas out there, and it's also about making friends and relationships. So, Cleveland, I'm thinking, you know this. You're in education. We're limited in our knowledge. The more we know, the more we know we don't know. And you just mentioned a book you're rereading and what have you, and for how small the academy is, it seems like it's very cliquish. There's like tribes and packs, and that's one thing I think is a form of whiteness. I'd hope that people would want to share opportunities, and because you're growing. I mean, if you share opportunities, if you write with others, you're bound to explode in your knowledge. That's my paradigm. I don't know. It's kind of been a guideline that I've lived my life, but I digress. I mean, what you mentioned, it's certainly been an impact having to juggle everything with family and what have you. But irregardless, I still think doing the videos is good. And with COVID, my prediction, Cleveland, is more academics are going to be doing videos because people actually watch it. Yeah, our books are important, but I don't know. I think videos, everyone's on their handhelds, their cell phones, and I think people are viewing videos. So maybe that's a turn. Maybe whiteness will creep into videos because those who have the resources to produce better videos ultimately, but I view it as an open access thing. YouTube, yeah, there's ads, but if you can hop on and watch a video. It's not paywalled like these academic journals are, so but let's maybe talk a little bit about some of your work, because I think this is a Shout Out Saturday video, but also more of thinking about Asians and their role in the dialogue of what's going across the nation with the protesting. What's your thoughts, Cleveland? Why was it in Minneapolis George Floyd? But because prior to that there was Eric Gardner, I Can't Breathe. What lit this firestorm? And maybe that's a poor word, but what caused a lot of this?
I was in a meeting on Friday with other associate deans, and we were talking about, we sort of started off the conversation talking about, what's people's feelings and all this kind of stuff. And in that room, there are only 3 people of color in the room, and there's some of them are program directors. I think I'm the only faculty of color that's actually an associate dean. The other ones are program coordinators, and me and the 2 other Black people in the room. And so I started out when the chair of the committee sort of kind of opened it up, sort of kind of some processing. I asked a question to the group. It was actually rhetorical because I didn't expect a response, because I knew that I just don't think they could respond actually. And so I started off with, what's, like I shared at the beginning of the video, like what is new about this incident? It's, you know, we have been dealing with this for centuries, since 1619. I'm talking about Black people. And so you're talking about 400 years, we're at 401 years, and what makes this incident so special that all of a sudden now people are, massive amounts of people are in the street. And, you know, in past, with the other ones, it's sort of kind of dismissed, and he shouldn't have been doing this, and he shouldn't have been doing that. And like I said, in the next thing I said, you know, dismantling whiteness and white supremacy is exhausting work. And once we get on the other side of COVID, and you can go back to brunching, and you can go back to going back to the movie theater, and you can go back to getting on your airplane and flying wherever. I mean, you can do that now, but you got to, it's not the same.
Sure.
Are you going to be around? And then, you know, and that's my challenge to the group. My challenge to the group is, I mean, while I appreciate you doing that, but my question is in terms of, you know, and I think that's a question for a lot, I think that's a question that a lot of Black folks have, is that, are you around, are you going to be around for the long haul? This is exhausting work, and here we are, another generation, 2 more generations, and maybe even 3 generations are now fighting this same thing that the baby boomers fought in the 60s. So now you got Gen X, Gen Zs, millennials are now fighting the battle. So now you got 3 generations fighting a battle that was started by baby boomers, way before, even before the baby boomers. In terms of it was, you know, slavery, and then Reconstruction, and Jim Crow, and segregation, and all of that. So we sat there, nobody responded for a few minutes, and then there was one of my colleagues made a comment about, which was really, really problematic, but I just didn't have the energy to challenge it, is, well, this video, which is so clear, implying that the other ones, with the other videos were grainy, and we didn't do this, and we didn't, you know, and what has been disheartening in 2020 is that you still have these people who are still whiteness, white supremacy, white people in some instances have not evolved. If you look at those videos from 2020, in terms of people spitting on people and driving through, you know, yelling and all that kind of stuff, that's the same stuff they did in the 60s. We have not evolved at all in that regard, because some of the same tactics that people were experiencing in 1965, which you're talking about less than 60 years ago, we're still experiencing in 2020. With just a different generation. And my hope is that when this is all said and done, because there is some sort of kind of coalition, I think there's some coalescing around groups, and that's why I'm hopeful around the Asians for Black Lives, because I think this is the first time that I can think of, and sort of kind of my, you know, in terms of developing my criticality and the work that I do, have seen a concerted effort from Asians in particular to do this work, to really sort of kind of be engaged in this work. But what I'll be really, really curious to see is where in the Asian diaspora are they from? Because we know 8 Filipinos, Cambodians, Laotians, Tongans are Pacific Islanders, but Laotians, Cambodians, Filipinos don't get the same perks that Koreans, Japanese, and Chinese get. So I would love to know. So on that, I sat in and watched a Zoom conversation between Black activists and Asian activists the other day, which was really, really good. But I think only one of the persons in the group was Korean. Everybody else, I think everybody else was for some other, just, I think there was one Chinese guy from some other discourse out of the diaspora. And then I watch Morning Joe every morning. That's my new routine, you know, in the age of COVID. Now, keep in mind, I am no fan of his. However, he had this guy on there who is Chinese. I think it was a Chinese adoptee because he has Jacob is his name, and I don't know any Jacobs from the mainland of China. Who has since converted from, you know, like in his background, because we're, you know, everybody's home, and his background has got this big Black Lives Matter post in his background, and he talks about, it's really sort of kind of an interesting conversation around how he started unhooking from whiteness and really realized, wow, these people care nothing about me. They want to use me for their own, pushing their own white agenda forward. But they really don't care anything about me as a Chinese person and the discrimination that I face as a Chinese person in these spaces that I'm upholding.
Mm-hmm. So Cleveland, you know, after the video, you know, with your permission, in the link below the video, I can post some links to your work for viewers who, I mean, there's a lot of space. I can put tons of links. So with your permission, I'll do that. So folks watching this video can access your work. If you're watching this video, again, I just encourage you to share the video. Also, leave a comment and let me know who you think a video interview would be great with doing a shout out Saturday video. If you have any questions for Dr. Hayes, you know, put those comments in there and I'll try to reply to you with the answers. I guess I want to kind of bring the video to an end, but I'm not done yet because this has been a very rich dialogue. You know, as scholars of inequality, Cleveland, you know, inequality as critical race theorists is all over. And I was listening to a podcast today and it talked about golf, why so many rich white guys like golf. And it talked about, you know, when you think about density of people, you have vast amounts of land that's necessary for your 18 holes of golf. It has to be beautified, right? It's costly. And all of that. And they looked at like LA, some of the most posh, expensive country clubs. And it turns out that they don't pay taxes on the property, the golf courses. The property was a fixed cost from, I don't know, we can say the 70s or the 60s. But if you compared the taxes that they pay for that land, you know, however many acres for the golf course, to now, the fair value would be like 90 million in taxes, but they only pay like 200,000. And it just shows me, I learned something from that I didn't know. Yeah, if you think about it, it makes sense. But it's part of a history and a story. It's a lesson that I didn't know. And so I share that in the sense that this conversation is nice for viewers, might learn something that you've said. So I guess if we could end the video by, you know, what are you reading or what are you thinking about? What are you doing with your scholarship? You know, you have a book coming out soon. Where is Dr. Hayes at with his scholarship? What are you engaged with?
I am really trying to reimagine myself post-full. And what is my, and this is a sidebar. Yeah, I tell people that I'm a full professor because I'm a unicorn in the academy. I'm a black male full professor, which we are few and far between. And so I'm very, very proud of that accomplishment because when I was in grad school, it's something that I would have never thought would have happened. So with that being said, I am trying to reimagine my post-full research identity. So I am reading Patricia Hill Collins' latest book on intersectionality. And I'm also reading, I have a polygamous relationships with books when I read them. So I'm normally doing 2 or 3 at a time. The other thing that I'm reading is the history, an Afro-Latinx history, Paul Ortiz's book, which is really, really good. I need to get re-engaged with that because it really, really sort of kind of helps me to understand. It would be great. I would love for somebody to write something similar when you're looking at an anthology of Afro-Asian history in the U.S. in terms of seeing where there are similarities in that, because I still think that going back to our original Asian for Black Lives, I still think that that could potentially go a long way in sort of kind of this coalition building. So right now, what I really would like to, I've got 2 pieces from my Latinx male teacher research has been published, and I really need to draw on that more. I need to draw on that data set that I have more, but I'm also in the process of trying to get a grant written that really, really sort of kind of will develop special elementary ed teachers to be able to really, really sort of kind of engage in STEM, string, whatever you want to use, because we cannot, and I say this all the time, we cannot change the paradigm or change the representation, increase the number of underrepresented people in the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, if those populations, Black and brown populations, first exposure to science is 7th grade. Because oftentimes in these large urban, in like the elementary school even in the district that my university is in, their schools teach kids don't even get science at all in K-6, except when I show up and do my fieldwork class. Or when I was teaching in Utah, there would be schools that their first experience with science was in 7th grade. Too late, you can't do it. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to sort of kind of create some leadership using the teachers and creating some leadership to be able to push that agenda forward. So what I'm focused on right now is really that once I get these books off my plate, and I got this one and one more, then I'll be able to really, really sort of kind of focus on that.
And I'm intentional on asking those questions because viewers that are listening about it, they might be like, oh, I have an idea, I've been engaged something, and they might reach out and collaborate. And so that's what this channel is about, is bringing people together. It's learning, it's reflecting. So it's been a pleasure, Dr. Hayes, to chat on this Zoom with you. It certainly won't be the last. I'll call on you again. And again, if you're watching this video, please subscribe to the channel, share the video, like the video, comment, questions, thoughts, things you listened to, maybe something you learned. And I thank you for watching the video, and I thank Dr. Hayes for their time. So take care. Have a great day.